Hello YouTube, today we're going to talk about a topic that is very important in my opinion, that is quite frequently discussed on YouTube Fitness, but that I've never really heard anyone attack with the right angle, and that's going to be body fat. Body fat is super important for a number of reasons, especially in bodybuilding, but I'm going to open that video by saying that it's not as important as you might think, and that in reality it doesn't matter at all. What I mean by that is your ability to know exactly what your body fat percentage is completely useless. Why? Because when you're taking pictures, when you're taking videos, or when you're competing on stage, no one is going to come up to you and say, hey bro, what is your body fat percentage? It's never gonna happen. What matters is how good you look. So even if modern means of measuring the body fat percentage tell you you're 25%, that doesn't matter. If you look good, if you look ripped, that's all that counts. Of course, it's not gonna happen like this. If you get a percentage that's around 25%, the chances of you being ripped are fairly low. But also understand that those methods of measuring body fat are not accurate. We don't have anything that is 100% going to be on the ball when it comes to body fat, and that's an issue because a very small margins of errors when it comes to body fat is going to make or break the entire thing. Because you're going to be within a certain radius of body fat that's going to be 15%, maybe 20%, every single percent means a ton. If you take my body and you shed 2% body fat, right, and I stay at the same mass, I am going to look immensely better, because on a big amount of lean mass, any muscle that you can trade for fat, where you can replace the fat by muscle, is going to make you look that much better, because not only are you not surrounding the muscle with fat anymore, the muscle got bigger by themselves. So it's going to make a massive difference in your look. And what motivated me to make this video is a discussion I had with certain users outside of this channel regarding my body fat percentage, where I had a back and forth with people, and eventually we got to a gridlock, and as an argument I sent them a video of me and I told them to assess my body fat, and they assessed it at around 12%, which is highly inaccurate. I am personally around 16-17% body fat, easy. Like, this is not me overshooting my body fat, this is pretty accurate. And these people wouldn't believe it. And the reason they wouldn't believe it is because the knowledge of body fat is not accurate enough, because it doesn't take into account muscle. It focuses too much on lean mass versus fat in terms of mathematical values, but it fails to realize that in terms of visuals, which is what most people use to determine body fat, having muscle or no muscle is going to make a massive difference in the way you look. Take two people, all right, that are going to be both 17% body fat. If one has a lot more lean mass than the other, they're going to look leaner. Why? Because the muscle is going to make the fat look much more even, much more distributed. And also, if you're a lifter, the type of fat you accumulate is not the type of fat that normal people get. I will make videos about that when I start discussing certain topics that I find interesting, like sumo wrestling. But there's a difference between visceral fat and subcutaneous fat. Visceral fat is going to be around your waist, it's going to surround your organs, it's going to give you that gut. That's not the type of fat you develop as a lifter. Lifters usually develop subcutaneous fat, where the fat surrounds the muscle. I'm going to talk about that in my recomp guide, but this is a thing that I never hear. Your body, when you subject it to training, understands that it would be much better for it in the long run to send fat around the muscles to make you stronger and more resilient, so that you don't break yourself, instead of putting it around the organs where it's completely useless and serves as a storage for energy to become calories in. If you starve someday, it puts that around the limb, it puts that around the muscle. It can still be utilized as energy, but it is also going to work as a spring and as a sleeve around the muscle. This is why people like me, people who have a lot of lean mass, who are fairly big, are going to be the perfect example of how body fat distribution and body fat percentage needs to be assessed for natural lifters, because we represent not the natural limit, but a pretty good standard of what most people will look like if they put in the work. What does that mean? It means that the entirety of the body fat discussion is wrong, because it is based around the wrong people, and also because the type of person that tends to obsess over body fat and then publicize the results skew the results. Let me use an example so that you understand what I mean. Men have a tendency to lie about their height. Why do men lie about their height? Because being tall is seen as being a good trait in Western society and around the globe in general. So men inflate their stats to look better. What does that create? It creates what I just said, an inflation, where the average height is not what it's supposed to be anymore because so many people lie about it. The amount of times where I told people I was 6 feet and people said, oh no, there's no way you're taller than that, even though I could prove to them objectively that I was 6 feet, blows my mind. But the reason why is because these people were subjected to a ton of guys who were 5'9", 5'10", and who kept repeating they were 6 feet because they wanted to feel better about themselves and their size. It's the same for body fat. Fat dudes that are sometimes morbidly obese or overweight, clinically overweight, lie about their body fat to make themselves feel better. They put themselves in the healthy range, which is why a ton of people on YouTube Fitness think that 18 or 17% body fat is obese, that you're going to be fat, that you won't have abs, that you are going to have no definition. That's the range I'm at. I have a full six-pack showing, I have my obliques showing. That is why you need to consider that body fat percentage based on men who have muscle. If you base it on some random dude who sits on the couch, then yes, 18% body fat is going to look fat. But if you have the muscle to go with it, it looks pretty good. And I think that for naturals, it's a message that they need to hear so that they don't starve themselves and they actually build the muscle that's going to make them look good. And to go back to that inflation thing, those same fat dudes who lie about their body fat because they're ashamed of being 25%, the same exists on the opposite side of the spectrum. Dudes who are 14%, 13% say they're below 10%. And you can see that on YouTube Fitness all the time. Guys who claim 8% body fat. 8% you're shredded. You have striations, you have feathers. Just because you have abs and veins in your biceps doesn't mean that you're below 10%. But it's that entire thing where everyone does it, so everyone believes it, and when people like me show up and are objective, no one believes us. But the reality of the matter is, it's important that people believe that. Why? Because A, it completely throws a wrench in the natural limit discussion, because it throws a wrench in the FFMI calculation. Because since everyone inflates or deflates their body fat all the time, and that the trend tends to be that people take 4 or 5% off of their real body fat, if not more sometimes, then of course the FFMI's number look insane and people walk around with 26, 27 FFMIs. Because they just took a large portion of what is body fat and attributed it to lean mass, which doesn't work. Of course, it's going to make the calculation completely faulty. And the second part, and the reason why it's so important that I want to discuss body fat with you guys, is because it's not a bad thing. Being between 14, 16% is not a bad thing. In my opinion, natural lifters should evolve between 12% and 18% body fat. There are certain people that are going to be able to go from 10 to 12, some people that are going to be able to go from 18 to 20, but for the majority of the population, that's a healthy range. If you build muscle in that range, you're going to look good. You don't need to look emaciated because you don't have the ability to maintain your hormones like enhanced athletes go, which is why that trend of natural lifters showing up on stage super skinny needs to stop. Let us keep our fat, let us keep our muscle and be big. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I will talk about it more in the recomp guide because I'm going to discuss some of those things that most likely intrigue you a little bit with the subcutaneous fat, the way fat distribution works for naturals, and the way muscles are going to make fat look. But that's pretty much that. So next time you hear guys say, oh, if you have abs, you're 12% body fat, show them that video or just stop talking to them because you're wasting your time with a person who cannot make the difference between someone who has muscle and some skinny McGee who is never working out and of course is going to look fat at 18%. So that's all I have. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.